Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the VIP Financial Education YouTube channel. We're here to help you go further, faster financially, and ultimately beat the banks at their own game. Today, I wanted to come in with a slightly more controversial subject here. And there's going to be some varying opinions. Would love to know what your feedback is in the comments below as well. If by the end of the video, you hear something that's attractive to you and you feel like it might be a good fit for you, you can reach out via email by sending your first name, last name, and contact phone number to 7 figures at VIPfinancialeducation.com. That's numeral 7 figures at VIPfinancialeducation.com. So today, I wanted to invite Leo Kanell on the program. He is one of the execs over at 7 Figures Funding, and they are experts at helping people get access to more capital. And one thing, if you followed my channel here for a while, that you'll know I am a firm believer about is that it's the idea that there's no such thing as having access to too much money. And as we talk about the concept of what we call debt weapons and the acquisition of getting these various lending instruments and these tools that we can essentially borrow and put to work for us, we believe that it should be an ongoing pursuit of gaining additional access to capital. I always suggest a minimum of at least $25,000 per year, and that number can grow as high as $250,000 every year. And we talk about the variety of tools that are available to you, various lines of credit. Obviously, credit cards can serve a great purpose, home equity lines of credit. So tools that are both secured and unsecured, tools that are both showing on credit and also invisible to your credit through, say, a business. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of credit card stacking and these folks that are selling services to help people actually get access to these types of tools. I have intentionally avoided bringing folks onto the channel to talk about their services in that space because I recognize that if mismanaged, this can lead to a devastating outcome financially. And so we want to address that in today's video as well. But I'd like to at least welcome you to the program here, Leo, to kick this off. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us some counterpoints to some of the concerns that I will have throughout the conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Excited to be here, Matt. It's a great conversation. And I think one of the keys that everybody understands is, in this country, credit, finance, money is not something that's very adequately taught in schools and in college. And so we feel like part of our mission is, hey, can we educate and empower people to make great decisions and understand credit and finance and put it to work for them? Because I always say there's 2 types of debt, right? There's bad debt and there's good debt.
And how would you define the difference between them?
Yeah, great question. So bad debt, we always give the example of, hey, the Super Bowl is coming up. I'm going to get that $10,000 curved, beautiful 100-inch TV at Best Buy. I'm going to put it on the Best Buy credit card, and I'm getting 25% interest on that. And obviously, that's an example of bad debt, or going on that vacation, or buying the expensive car, or all these different things that do not generate a return for us. And so if you go into debt for something that generates no type of return, then we classify that as bad debt. And then the other example I always love to share is one of Kevin Plank. And Kevin Plank is the founder of Under Armour, the #2 sports apparel company in the world. He's a billionaire, and he, on his website at underarmour.com, he talks about the Under Armour story where he started out with $40,000 in personal credit cards that he used to develop that special apparel there when he was a walk-on college football player at the University of Maryland in the 90s, and how he leveraged that debt to understand how to build the right product. And then he started getting with the college football teams and NFL, and then the rest was history. But if he hadn't have had that initial financing from those credit cards, he never would have successfully built Under Armour.
Sure. And I'm glad you used the word leverage, because that's really what we're talking about here today is the proper utilization of leverage and defining bad debt as consumer-based spending versus good debt, where you're generating a return on the investment, and that speculated return exceeds the cost of the money you're borrowing, which the margin or profit is then obviously mathematically a road to wealth over time. I think it's obviously famously a Robert Kiyosaki approach to building wealth, right? On the reverse end of that spectrum, we obviously have the Dave Ramsey approach, which is hate debt, avoid it at all costs, no matter what, don't use it. And I think that there is a middle of the road that a lot of our audience tends to gravitate to, as do I, which is the ability to still hate debt, but love leverage. And how can you utilize leverage, but manage it the right way to where you can aggressively attack and eliminate the debts long before they become too expensive to justify. And I know in your program, you guys are focusing, I'm certain, on a lot of low to 0% promotional periods when it comes to the tools that you're getting. Is that a fair assumption to make?
So a little bit more nuanced than that. We have a business finance marketplace. For me, before we started this company, Ty and I wanted to be able to look at our client in the eye and say, hey, I guarantee this is the very best financing option for you to do what you want to do, whether you're a real estate investor or a business owner. And so on this marketplace, we've got 5-year no collateral loans. We've got business lines of credit, sometimes SBA, which has not always been our favorite because it's very difficult to get through. There's a new SBA loan product that's good out there. But then, of course, 0% interest business credit card stacking can be a very powerful tool as well. But at the end of the day, you made the great point. It's all about making sure you can generate a positive return. And one of the things that's super important is you don't want to actually take out any type of debt and financing until you have a proof of concept that the odds are high of what you're going to invest in, or the business you're going to be taking financing out for is going to generate that return. And it comes down to dollars and cents. And if I can borrow money at 10% and make 40 or 50 or 100% return, well, that makes sense because I know 50, minus 10 is a 40% return, or 100 minus 10. If the money cost me 10% or even 20%, I'm coming out ahead and I'm winning. And so those are some of the keys. But for us, we built out a marketplace of options so we can guarantee the very best funding for that client, depending on what they're trying to accomplish.
I think that's another great set of points too. And one of the reasons that I insisted on bringing you on, because Michael has been pressing me about you guys for some time. He's been using you with the Little Pink Houses of America business strategy. Oh, yeah. And so that model was extremely effective and wildly popular here on the channel. We've got 2 other business models that people have been scrambling to get involved with. One for the last few years, the other just since this spring. The first was a proactive business model, or side hustle as a lot of folks refer to them, where they're actually getting involved in the short-term rental business. And instead of actually purchasing properties for themselves, they're able to arbitrage, or even better yet, partner with homeowners that actually are responsible for the maintenance of the house. They're the ones that have put the down payment into it. They're the ones carrying a 30-year mortgage. And the individuals that are participating in the program can avoid all of that by just simply managing the property on behalf of the owner, and they can generate tremendous amounts of wealth. In fact, we've demonstrated example after example of people that have climbed into the tens of thousands per month in profits, and they can do so with a very small investment. So having access to capital like the tools that you provide would be very useful in that. The second business opportunity that we've been talking about since the spring is a fix and flip model, which is far more passive. So for people that don't want to commit daily attention and spend a lot of time every week building a business, they can simply lend the money, and as a lender, expect a return on that investment. For instance, I used one of my tools, borrowed $100,000 at 8.25% in order to lend that money at a 39% return over the course of a 6-month period. That's a no-brainer, right? If I'm paying 8.25 over the course of a year, and I'm earning 39% over just 6 months, that's a hefty margin for me to benefit from. So we're helping other people get involved with this. And every time we've talked about either of those opportunities on the channel, we get a ton of feedback and people that are interested in participating, and they see the value of having access to other people's money in order to get involved at a faster pace and see bigger results than they would if they were just simply trying to rely on their own liquid cash reserves.
And I'm working a lot behind the scenes on the second project that Matthew's talking about that we've been doing a lot of these videos on. So I'm working with, a lot of our channel audience that are investing in those projects. And one of the things that they're asking for is, how do I acquire more capital? A lot of them are doing the arbitrage model with friends and family. Some of them are borrowing money, and they're obviously getting a higher rate of return. To Matthew's point, he's involved in those deals as well. So I'm familiar with y'all. What Matthew said earlier, I've done business with you guys, which I have for a number of years with my other company, Pink Houses of America. We've featured on the channel here for a number of years, and you guys have been a phenomenal funding source for a variety of reasons with that. Folks that wanted to utilize that money to come on board for the buy-in, like they would for this B&B boot camp, but also people that wanted to take out capital and go and invest. This is something that I've watched from a distance for a while. I've referred a lot of people to you, and I've gotten tremendous feedback. So, when we're talking about these other opportunities, again, I have had to talk to Matthew multiple times about it before he was really comfortable bringing you guys in. And, I can really kind of stand behind the results that I've seen over the last handful of years.
Yeah, and one of the things that concerned me and why I wanted to have this conversation was I offer free coaching sessions on the channel, one time gift to our audience. And I had a free coaching session on Friday. And the guy couldn't have been a nicer dude, but $23,600 worth of business debts on a business that he attempted to get off the ground for the past year. That's a variety of expenses that accumulated to that total, including some trainings, including some website design. He's going to attempt to bring a product that doesn't exist in the marketplace yet to the public. And here he is a year later, he's not even actively working on it, but he's left with these balances now that are truly affecting his day in and day out life. And that's the concern that we want to try and avoid. I love the fact that you're saying we've got to go forward with something that has proof of concept. It's a tried and tested history of results. And that's why I love the Maven opportunity, as well as the short-term rental wealth academy that we've talked about on this channel many, many times. We'll throw some links to a couple of videos in the description for anybody listening that is interested in figuring out how not just to get the money through I or elsewhere in order to invest and start working forward, but you can not, have a place to actually put that money to. So with that in mind, let's kind of shift gears here. I'm curious to know, who would you say this is right for, and who should avoid what it is you're selling? Tell me who your perfect client is.
Yeah, great question, Matt. I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is exactly what you just talked about, right? If we're going to be taking out debt and financing, then we have to have that proof of concept. In the book I wrote, The Business Funding Formula, which we give a digital copy out for free to everybody who applies for financing, there's a whole chapter we dedicate to what's called ROL, which is return on loan, return on line of credit. We're all familiar with ROI. I've got to generate that return on the investment. Well, we treat debt the same way, and we've been talking about it. And so financing is right when you're following a proven program or a roadmap for success. I had a chance to sponsor a speaking event with David Meltzer once, and he talked about, listen, the fastest way to success, you guys, isn't for you to go recreate the wheel. It's find someone who has a roadmap for success, ask them for directions, and follow those directions. And so what you've laid out before us, Matt, is two, well-proven and documented opportunities in the B&B space. We're B&B investors, love that opportunity. And then obviously in some of these other opportunities that are proven where you can just put that money to work. And so when you're dealing with two proven roadmaps for success, now it's okay, how much money can I put in? Maybe sometimes I start out smaller, and then as I get results, then I can grow that. And so what you want to look for is there's two types of financing at the end of the day, right? We've got kind of a loan, and a loan, that money is charging us interest. We have to generate a return, and it gives you a lot of urgency to do that. Sometimes that's right if you are a business owner and you need to buy a piece of equipment or something specific. But oftentimes I found if you're a side hustler, if you have these opportunities, and especially if you're starting a newer business, then a revolving line of credit or revolving accounts like business credit cards can be the best option, because you're not paying on those until you actually use them. But by having them available, now you can take advantage of that opportunity. So for anybody who is following, proven business models like the two that you laid out before us, and understands that this is going to be a process, not a one-time event, and can look at it from a long-term perspective, then that's somebody who can look at financing options. Usually the number one question we have when we apply for financing is this going to hurt my credit if I apply? And the good news is, with our programs, we're approved with Experian soft credit check program. So there's no negative impact to get that free pre-approval option. And we will look at all the options and present those to you. And then you're in the driver's seat to decide which option works best, whether that's 2 or 3 0% interest business credit cards, whether it's a 5-year no collateral personal loan, or if you do have an active business, you could get a business line of credit. And again, that revolving money is there and available, but you're not paying on it until you use it. And as the opportunity comes and now you find a unit and you need to get it furnished, and you have to cover 2 or 3 months, maybe first and last month's rent if you're doing arbitrage with a B&B property, or if you were doing a fix and flip, you need money for the rehab, or you're just putting that money to work in that proven program. Then you understand going into it, my payment is going to be X amount each month. Now, a lot of people love the no interest program because, hey, you've got 0% interest for up to as long as 18 months. So you have time to generate that return, pay that money back at no interest. And like you said, if you have an opportunity to make 40% in 6 months and your money is costing you, 8 or 9%, that's exactly the type of funding that you can take out and benefit from. And so you just want to be very smart. And I think I got 50,000, well, let's prove out, 10 or 15,000. Let's not go max out the entire thing. And let's follow a proven business model. Let's not go try and recreate the wheel. Otherwise, you do end up with $23,000 in debt, and you don't have any way to pay it back until you get another business that's generated a return, which is why I think the proven business model they can follow with you is vital and key to their success.
And let's talk about what's in it for you, because obviously you guys aren't doing this for free. And I've seen credit card stacking agencies charge between 12 all the way up to 18% over the years. I'm curious, what exactly is your pricing model?
Yeah, great question, Matt. And so for us, we're performance-based, right? We have no upfront fees. We cover the cost of getting that credit snapshot. It's a soft pull, doesn't impact the client's credit at all. And so if the client is an established business owner and we're looking at a business loan or line of credit, there's no charges there. The lenders pay us a commission for bringing them the business. But if you're new to business and you're looking at one of these business opportunities with B&B and the other opportunity you talked about with real estate, then in that case, you're going to be looking at startup funding. And 10 years ago, I tried to get funding for one of my startups. And I went to my local bank, they dinged my credit with a hard pull, and I figured out, dang, this is difficult. And so for the last decade, we've worked hard to create all these different options for startups. And so if you're getting, a 5-year no collateral personal loan or doing our 0% interest business credit card stacking program, then those programs are going to have a one-time success fee anywhere from 5 to 9%. And it just comes out of the money we get you, just like closing costs in a mortgage. And so, for example, if you only need $10,000, then in that case, it's going to be closer to the 9% success fee, and $900 will come out of that money we get you. But if you get up to $100,000, then we're, of course, going to cap that with a 5% fee. And so it would only be $5,000 tax deductible consulting fee that would come out of the $100,000 that we get you. And since a lot of the time that money is 0% interest up for as long as 18 months, again, it gives you a lot of time to be able to generate that positive return on the loan or return on the line of credit. And so that's how our performance fees work.
I see. Okay. And just from experience, I can say that a 0% introductory period is usually going to cost somewhere around 1% as a minimum payment. So if we're looking at $10,000, the cost each month would ultimately break down to about $100 a month in minimum payments, which means that you do have time to get your business up and running before you're burdened by having to pay that full $10,000 back. And I think that is a terrific point in terms of how you're managing your cash flow early on when you're starting out. Now, I noticed you guys set up a really sleek link for VIP here. And this looks like it's a very simple 3-step process. No hard inquiry under step 1 to get pre-qualified. You complete the form. Step 2, speaking with a funding advisor, and they will then obviously determine what the best funding options are for you. And third step being gaining access to your funds in as little as 48 hours. question for you regarding the time frame and the dollar amounts. What are you seeing as the typical turn time to get folks funding? Is 48 hours typical, or is that more of an anomaly? And what are you normally seeing as the total amount acquired for the average applicant? What would you say is normal?
Yeah, great question, Matt. And so it absolutely depends on the type of financing that you qualify for or select. And so our perspective is we've got this marketplace of all the best finance options in the United States of America today, which, by the way, has the very best finance system in the world. You can't get these opportunities in other countries nearly as easily as you can here in the US. And so if you are looking at a business line of credit or a short-term business loan, those can fund in literally as quickly as 2 to 3 business days. We had a recent client secure a $200,000 business line of credit, got it in about 3 days. If you're doing one of the personal loan programs, those also will fund into your bank account within about 2 to 5 days. And then if you're doing the business credit card stacking program, you're usually waiting about 2 weeks for those cards to come in the mail. But once you fill out that 90-second form, just your contact information, date of birth, and residential address, then you're going to be getting a text or an email to schedule a phone call at a time that works for you within the next few hours with a dedicated funding advisor who will present all of your options to you, answer all your questions, and then also, make sure you're taking into account all the right things to whether this makes sense to take out the financing, making sure it's a good decision. And then we're going to educate and empower you. Everybody that applies for financing gets our Credit College platform gift. Again, no one taught us about credit. We're on a mission to eradicate the disinformation related to credit misinformation once and for all. And that's why everybody gets that platform and a copy of the Business Funding Formula book.
Okay. For those of you guys that want the link so you can check out that easy application process, feel free to email the 7figures@VIPfinancialeducation.com address. Again, first name, last name, and contact phone number in the body of the email. There will be an autoresponder to that will include the link to that special application form. Sounds like it's a very easy process to get through. Let's talk a little bit about what it takes to qualify. So you've got a variety of products. You're going to find the funding that works the best for the individual and try to meet their personal goals. What is it that is required typically in terms of borrowing strength? Minimum credit scores, time in business, other compensating factors, assets. What is it that these lenders are looking for from you?
Great question, Matt. And there's 3 ways to qualify for financing. Where it's unsecured, it's quick, easy. And so the first way is if you have good credit, and we're talking about a 680 or better FICO score, not a Vantage score. So sometimes you log into Credit Karma and, I've got a 705, but that's a Vantage score. And so it's going to be a FICO score, which is the model that we use and that all of the lenders use who actually issue out money. And so if you have at least a 680 FICO score, and there's different types of credit, right? Sometimes if you're 20 years old and you have a 700 credit score and 2 $100 credit cards, that's not going to qualify you for much financing because there's not a lot of history versus, let's say you're 30 years old and you've got a history of 12 accounts and maybe your score is lower at 693, but you've got that history, even with a couple late payments, you're going to qualify for a lot more financing. And so basically, if you have good credit, that'll qualify you. And I would say at least a $3,000 credit card limit with a year of history and maybe an auto loan, $5,000, $10,000 auto loan with a year of payment history. If you have that, then you can qualify based on good credit alone with the 0% interest card stacking program. That can be anywhere from $5,000 on the low end all the way up to $150,000 on the high end. Let's say your score is a little bit lower, down to a 650 FICO score, because maybe you had a late payment or two, maybe you got some maxed out personal credit cards. One of the big secrets about credit that no one teaches us is making your payments important. That's 35% of your score, but 30% is actually how you use credit cards. And so if you can keep the balance below about 40 or 45% of the limit of your credit cards, that's going to really raise your score. But sometimes, we have medical bills, we have things that happen. So we have these maxed out credit cards, but we've got a 650 FICO and we have verifiable income. And that means I've got, last 2 pay stubs with my job, or if I'm 1099, completely self-employed business, then I've got my last year's tax return. So if you have that verifiable income, then you can qualify for one of our personal loan programs. And then we'll usually recommend that you use some of that loan to pay down your credit card balances. We'll see your credit score rise as much as 50 to 100 points. And then on the second step, you'll qualify for that 0% interest card stacking. And then we might be able to move all those balances that you were paying 20% interest on over to 0% interest. In some cases, we've saved families as much as $15,000 a year in interest by helping them kind of rearrange some of those credit card balances and put them at low interest rates and still get the money that you need to launch your business and start generating income on a proven model.
So what is the normal timeline as far as how long you're working with an average client?
Yeah, an average client, if they're just using one of the loan programs, so it's about a week. If they're doing the card stack program, about 2 weeks. But sometimes in that third example I just shared, we might need to get a personal loan, pay those card balances down, see your credit score go up. So maybe it takes a week to get the loan. It takes another 2 or 3 weeks for those balances to update with the credit bureaus. And then we can do that card stack afterwards and lock in that 0% interest money. So in that case, it might take 4 to 6 weeks, but it's usually anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks if you're ready to go and can move forward immediately.
Are you guys generally recommending people explore shelf corporations?
Yeah, it's always great to have a business entity set up. And certainly if there's more history on it and you show up on that, if you are looking for as many business credit cards as possible, and you're trying to do a stack and you just want to have that money available for opportunities, the older your business is will help, but that's only part of it. The other thing that really makes a big difference is when your business bank account was set up. And so I feel like 5 to 10 years ago, you could get that shelf corp, you could kind of buy in and benefit more. But now the lending facilities and all these systems are very sophisticated. And so they really identify not only how old your business is, but how long have you actually had a business bank account? And is that business bank account active? And have you filed, business tax returns? And so it really comes down sometimes to the actual financial history. But if you at least have a business entity with some history behind it, then you can start out with business credit cards. And then we're going to share our business credit program for free with you, so you can build the business's credit score, because most people don't know that your business also comes with a credit score. And when you can follow these steps, then you can begin to qualify for SBA and business lines of credit down the road. And so that's part of the process, right? Sometimes you start out with personal funding, and then as you get building that business credit up and the business financials, then you can qualify for more financing in the name of the business as you grow.
Now, I've never had any issues getting access to business credit cards in the past, even with a business that was brand new, and it's often offered at the time of setting up the business bank accounts. I know Chase has always been anxious to include a business credit card along with every bank account I've opened with them from, with literally no business history yet with that EIN. But you're suggesting that with more time, eligibility does increase.
Yeah, absolutely. With more time, but it also comes down to that personal credit profile, right? If someone has a history of, $5,000 credit card limits and maybe just, one car loan or some student loans versus somebody who has had a history of having $20,000 credit card limits, they've had mortgages, they've paid those mortgages off, they've paid car loans off. Someone with that strength of credit is automatically going to qualify for more business credit than somebody who has kind of that newer, thinner personal credit profile. So the personal credit profile is so important and so vital. But then once you have that established, then the next thing they'll look for is time in business and then business financial history. But you're absolutely right, Matt. If you've got a really strong personal credit profile, and I love that you brought up Chase, that's where we have all of our business bank accounts as well. And the cool thing is some of these business card accounts can start out with a limit as small as $10,000. And we've got one card that's now up to a $115,000 limit. And we didn't ask for an increase ever. We just used the account, paid it down. And so following some of these strategies can really pay big dividends. But you're absolutely right. If you have a really strong personal credit profile, then you won't have any troubles, securing multiple large limit business credit cards.
I love that. Well, I will tell you, leveraging various loans, lines of credit has been the single most valuable thing I've done in business in terms of of generating the results. The biggest concern, of course, is people get themselves, in a lot of deep waters that they can't seem to get themselves out of. And that is obviously what I think the key takeaway from this is. If you're not somebody that has a history of paying your debts on time, paying them off, if you are tempted by consumer-based spending versus the wealth creation options that are available with access to this capital, it would not be a good fit between you and the seven figures guy. But with the responsibility behind you and consistency, and you're putting forth the effort necessary if you're attempting to build a business, or you're doing your homework and researching investment options where you're speculating great rates of return, and you're making sure that you're getting involved with somebody that has a history of results and success and a great reputation, and by all means, I think this is going to be a tremendous resource to at least have in your back pocket. So for those of you guys that are interested in exploring this further, I imagine that you guys over there, Ty, none of the interactions I've had with you thus far have been aggressive, have included any form of a hard sale. I'm assuming that you guys have some form of consultation-based process where you're able to sit down and make sure that nobody's moving forward that shouldn't be. Is that something that we can safely expect?
Yeah, no question, Matt. I mean, the real heroes at Seven Figures Funding are our funding advisors and managers who walk you through the process, who will make recommendations. And exactly, it's not something for everybody. And maybe you're not ready right now, but you will be in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. Well, hey, we're going to be here. If you check us out, we've got over 1,000 5-star reviews online because we serve our clients, we educate, we empower them. We have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. And so it's all about serving the client and getting you the result that you need, and then putting you in a position to succeed, and then sending you out better than we found you, helping you move some high interest debt to 0% interest, and strategically putting yourself in a position to succeed into the future, making good financing and credit decisions that no one ever taught us about.
And that's why I was comfortable also, obviously bringing them on here to really scrutinize. So I think this has been great as well. But I've used to spot check you guys for a number of years. So I know clients that have gone through the process with you with all degrees of success. I mean, everyone, goes in, looking for some certain amount of money, and not everyone gets, that full amount right out of the gate. But you guys really have at least the feedback I've received has been really positive about you guys kind of walking them through the steps, and then Matthew's point being a little bit more in that consultation, mode as opposed to a sales type of mode, which we always appreciate. We don't like that hard sales approach, and any opportunities that we bring here on the channel, that's of the utmost importance for us to obviously protect our audience. And I've with a number of years of experience with you and your exec team, we definitely felt comfortable at least exposing you to some of our audience, and hoping that the right people will move forward with you, and the wrong people won't.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your time. Guys, one last time here, email sevenfigures@vipfinancialeducation.com. First name, last name, phone number in the body. You can put 7 figures in the subject line to help us identify. You'll get an autoresponder with a link to that very fancy, very easy 3-step, 90-second application process. No hard inquiry on the credit report. Get out there and at least explore what avenue is best. I mean, getting access to capital ahead of taking action is an absolute necessity. You've got to have your ducks in a row with your finances before you start jumping into different projects. So if you're interested in things like investing passively in fix and flip model, where you can get access to, incredible rates of return, we're talking again, 50% annualized has really sort of been the very low end of any of the projects I've seen them bring to us and make available to you guys, the audience. What I'm involved with is annualized out at 78% return. So absolutely no-brainer type of investing, and it doesn't require anything from me. The project is managed by their pros and their team, and it goes to the market and is sold without me having to do any of that. Whereas on my businesses that I've built, I relied on tools just like Ty is bringing and discussing today in order to start a sewer business 2.5 years ago that is on pace to grow over 40 million over the next 5 years. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without access to tools like this. It literally required a $50,000 starting investment for me. And I'm a 50% owner of that business for that 50K. We've since taken on a lot more leverage and used a lot more tools once we were able to prove concept, but we waited a year and a half to do that. So much of what you're doing, I run a short-term rental property as well. I manage it myself, bought that using tools similar to what you're providing here. I can truly stand behind the philosophies and the hypotheticals. The real question then becomes, are you getting involved in things that you're going to be able to give it everything it needs in order for it to be successful? At least with some of the options we've talked about here, it doesn't require any effort from you. Maybe that's where you start. But I think this can serve everyone that's reached out about any of those projects. There's no question about that. And we just want to make sure people are using debt wisely so that it doesn't end up becoming, the greatest threat to you in terms of your finances. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. Ty, I want to thank you once again. Thank you so much. We'll love to bring you back on and we can start showcasing some case studies, with permission from audience members that have success with what you're doing. We'd love to have them on the channel and share exactly what their results were. So over the coming months, expect a follow up, and we can continue to just bring this and other resources to our crowd. So thanks again for your time. Really appreciate you. And Michael, for the introduction. Good job.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Great to see you again, Leo. It's been a while.
Michael, Matt, been awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Leo. Appreciate your time today. All right, guys, we're going to wind this up. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and email. That's 7figures@VIPfinancialeducation.com. This is Leo Kanell, Michael Matthey. Guys, make it a great day and keep on cash flowing. See you soon.